This is the Dacia Jogger, Europe's cheapest 7-seater family car. How did Dacia manage to keep the price so low, and can you start planning more kids? Let's find out. This episode is brought to you by Carvago. Be smart, choose your car online with Carvago. The Dacia Jogger is a family car that escapes classification. At first glance, it looks like a crossover. From up close, it's more of an estate. It's as long as some minivans, but in terms of width, it's still a super mini. And this is the Jogger's secret. From the front bumper to the B-pillar, it's a Dacia Sandero stepway, and from the B-pillar to the back, it's a people carrier. The Dacia Jogger replaces two models, the Logi minivan and the Logan MCV estate. There are two engine variants to choose from. Both have 3 cylinders and 1-liter displacement. One is a normally aspirated engine with factory-installed LPG or autogas, and the other one is a turbocharged petrol unit. The LPG version gets an integrated filler, and the trip computer also shows LPG range, and there is also a factory LPG button. Both engine variants have identical boot size and are available as 5 or 7-seaters. The only difference is the optional spare wheel, which the LPG variant cannot have. The spare wheel for the non-LPG variant costs €150 or is standard on the top spec model. But generally, Dacia is giving you a choice. If you don't want something, you can keep the money in your pocket. Dacia is also trying to design its cars in a way so that they are cheaper to make. For example, the rear light housing, which many car journalists say resemble Volvo tail lamps, are just cheaper to implement. No, Volvo didn't make lights to save money, but to improve visibility because they are lit all the way like this. Dacia, on the other hand, made those to cut costs by enclosing the tail lights in one housing. On the side of the car, there is no need to run additional cables to a separate housing on the tailgate. More cost-cutting is in the boot. For example, the jack is just attached to the side of the boot, and the third row of seats doesn't fold into the floor like in many modern 7-seaters. Dacia wants to keep things as simple as possible. The 7-seater gets armrests in the third row, and that's about enough. The Dacia Jogger recently scored 1 star in Euro NCAP crash tests. In the media, Dacia representatives say this is actually their safest model in history, and they implied the poor score is a result of lack of non-essential driver aids or things like seatbelt reminders for the third row. Now, a seatbelt reminder would be an extra cost and additional complication when removing the seats, and sure, if the seats don't fold under the floor and you have to unplug cables yourself, it is a bit of a hassle. But if I were to evaluate the safety level of occupants of the Dacia Jogger, I'd focus on the things like the way the third row of seats is actually attached to the car. Usually, seats like these would have a spring-loaded lever that locks in place when you put the seat on its rails. In the Jogger, there are no springs, so once you put the seat back in its place, you better remember to lock it as well. Whoever was reviewing the car before me forgot about it, so I drove about 700 kilometers with the seats ready to hit me in the head if I had an accident. Otherwise, installing and removing the seats is rather easy. The seats are not particularly heavy, so it's a one-person job. And now there are 2 seats, rather than a single 2-person bench like in the Logi I reviewed many years ago. There are 2 shopping bag hooks and a 12-volt socket in the boot. There is also an elastic tape which isn't very well attached to whatever it's supposed to hold in place under the lining, and there is no place to store the cargo cover. Depending on the version, the Jogger boot volume is as follows: 708 liters for the 5-seater variant, 565 liters in the 7-seater variant with the third row stowed away, 696 liters in the 7-seater variant with the third row removed, 160 liters in the 7-seater variant with the third row open. Now, regardless of the seat configuration, there is no flat loading area because the boot floor is marginally higher than the floor under the second row of seats. It's like in the 7-seater Peugeot 307, if you remember a car like that.
Getting in the third row is easy because the seats in the second row not only tilt but also fold completely. The third row passenger can get some fresh air thanks to tilting side windows. There's enough space back here even for adults to take occasional trips, not just teenagers.
Which brings us to a problem with many 7-seaters, and that's the lack of ISOFIX anchor points in the third row. Sure, you can mount child seats using seatbelts, but that's more complicated and requires frequent readjustments, which is inconvenient, especially in the third row. And anyway, what kind of family car has only 2 ISOFIX anchor points? And what about, I don't know, a third one on the front passenger seat? And the second row child seats will have to be removed every time someone wants to get into the third row. So before you go for the 7-seater Jogger, see how old and tall your kids are.
And now the second row where there is no armrest and no cup holders. There are door pockets and seat pockets as well. And a 12-volt socket, and that's pretty much it. This may be a Super Mini, but the seat is mounted higher, so the legs are almost at a right angle and your knees don't push against the front seats. However, width-wise, you can feel this is a B-segment car. Perhaps that third row isn't obsolete after all.
In the front, it's the Dacia Jogger cockpit. The instrument cluster is clear and simple. The infotainment screen is matte, so there is no problem with light reflections. Also, you get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but since there is no wireless charging, you'll be using one of the 2 USB ports. Anyway, the one next to the instrument cluster comes in handy when you have the optional phone mount here. This test car gets all the options, but you can skip some like the automatic climate control and the heated seats for €550. You'll probably survive without sat-nav for €300. Parking sensors, reversing camera and blind spot monitoring will set you back €450. Do you care about the paint? The armrest is okay, but storage underneath is useless. You don't need the electric parking brake, and the key card, well, you can use a regular key and you've just saved €550. You're welcome.
Looking for a car for family, fun or work? Carvago is the place for you. Carvago is a modern platform with vetted cars from all over Europe. You can buy a car from the comfort of your home and Carvago will deliver it to your doorstep. Carvago.com features more than 700,000 cars from vetted dealers across Europe. You select a car on Carvago. Carvago sends out its experts and presents you with the car audit, a full report on the actual condition of the car. Car audit keeps track of 270 technical points, includes photos as well as the final evaluation by a Carvago certified technician. Next, you simply select financing and delivery options, you sign a deal with Carvago, and Carvago buys the vetted car for you. You have 14 days after delivery to test the car and return it without giving a reason. The price also includes up to 12 months of warranty, depending on the region. So, what's your car from Carvago going to be like? There are cup holders, the door pockets could be bigger though, the glove box is average size. The smartphone cubby is on the small side, especially if you plug your phone into the charger. And it's finished in hard plastic, so things will rattle about inside. The start button is hard to see, but we established you don't want the key card, so the key in the ignition is fine.
This is the 110 horsepower turbo petrol version, which should use 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers combined. It's achievable in eco mode. In normal mode, you're going to get low 6. However, on the motorway at 120 kilometers per hour, consumption rises to at least 7 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's without any significant load. Dacia promises 0 to 100 kilometers per hour of 11.2 seconds for the 7-seater. I got 12.2. The Jogger has a first short gear, and then you have to reach almost 3000 revs in the second gear to get the 200 Newton meters of torque. Yes, 190 is available from 1750 revs, but you have to get it up to about 2000 and a bit to get anything out of it. Driving the Jogger in traffic is not a pleasant affair. If you're considering this for a taxi, there is no automatic gearbox option just yet. The 2023 hybrid will be automatic. This Jogger is best for short to medium distance travel between small towns with speeds up to 90 km per hour. But what about motorway driving? Well, above 100 km per hour it gets really loud inside. After a 370 km road trip, I was tired, like driving more than 1000 km in one day in our Mazda MX-5. Not a pleasant experience. The Jogger lacks lane keeping assist. It doesn't have adaptive cruise control, so you have to pay attention to the road despite the constant debilitating noise. Dacia claims the clients don't need additional gizmos, and I get it, some people just want to keep the money in their pockets, but I'll choose comfort and safety, which is a result of comfort, because I'm less tired. After a few hundred kilometers behind the wheel of the Jogger, it's really hard to concentrate.
The seats aren't terrible, but I wouldn't mind lumbar support adjustment. Also, I can't find an ideal sitting position. My left knee is bent too much. I find the steering wheel reach adjustment insufficient. Visibility on crossings is bad because of thick A-pillars. Visibility to the rear is okay. Predictably, the suspension copes well with rougher roads, and the 20 cm ground clearance means you don't have to worry too much about stones, roots and other debris you may encounter. The roof rails, which quickly transform into a makeshift roof rack, are a nice and practical addition. They can take loads of up to 80 kilograms. Prices of the Dacia Jogger start at 15,000 euro for the 5-seater essential spec with the factory LPG, add 500 euro for the petrol turbo, 900 for the 7-seater. This test car is the middle comfort trim. The turbo 7-seater starts at 18,100 euro. With options, this test car costs 21,050 euro.
The Dacia Jogger has no competition, not because there are no other 7-seater practical cars out there. At the end of the day, the Jogger is still a super mini, while its closest rival, the VW Touran, is a compact car, and it starts at more than double of the Jogger's base price. But whereas I can drive the Touran from Poland to Portugal in relative comfort, I wouldn't recommend driving the Jogger further than across Belgium, preferably avoiding any dual carriageways and motorways. Sure, cars like the Jogger are also needed, but don't fall for the value for money slogan. You get what you pay for. And what do you think about the Dacia Jogger? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.